winter solstice chant.
Welcome to our Solstice service this night. There are a couple of invitations. Following this service, you're invited to walk our labyrinth or to enjoy the firelight of the bonfire in the courtyard afterward. And on Sunday, we want to remind you the times of our services. We have a 10:30 a.m. Christmas Eve pageant where our learning community and our children will help tell one of the greatest stories ever shared. And on Christmas Eve, we have our traditional candle lighting and carols service at 8 p.m. And all of you are invited to stay following this service and to return on Sunday. Welcome to our Solstice service.
In the pagan tradition, which is grounded in a respect and reverence for the natural world, calling upon the four directions is the usual way to begin any ceremony. Each direction is associated with an element of the natural world and represents some part of our human nature as well. The directions are not seen as separate and isolated, but rather as part of the interdependent system that makes up the world. Here on our altar, we have the symbolic elements for each direction, and we will travel through the meaning associated with each direction before entering into a time of meditation. We begin in the east, toward the rising sun. The element of the east is air, represented on our altar by a feather. Air and breath give us life. It is the direction of inspiration, the word that literally means to take in air. The east is associated with the mind, with knowledge and learning and intellectual curiosity. Imagine the birds turning and wheeling in the air. Imagine the breeze blowing through your hair. Turning toward the east, we look for a fresh start, an invigorating breath, a new idea. When you are feeling stuck in a rut, beholden in a routine, or if the wind has gone out of your sails, look eastward. We move around the wheel to the south. The element of the south is fire. Fire is a transformative force. It is heat and light and powerful change. In the northern hemisphere, it makes sense that we associate the south towards the equator with warmth of the sun and the heat of the flame. We see birds move south, butterflies move south, whales move south, seeking warmer places when the weather gets cold. When our internal weather gets cold, turning south is a metaphor for turning toward warmth and daylight, seeking out the changes that will warm us up, get our blood moving, call us out of our winters, out of hibernation, into action. Continuing around the circle, we arrive in the west. The element of the west is water. And here on our altar, we have some water symbolizing the way we come together in our community as individual drops join in a mighty river. In the west, we are drawn into the experience of our emotions. It is a direction that calls us to self-reflection and self-understanding. Our emotions move in us like water flowing through our lives, sometimes calm and sometimes turbulent, but always flowing. When we dam up our feelings, just like when we dam up a river, the pressure builds until it finds an outlet. If you are seeking to get in touch with your inner life, with your emotions, turn towards the west. We move now to the north. The element of the north is earth, represented here by some dirt. There is stability here, the ground of our being. The north represents the place that holds us, that allows us time and space to heal and to grow, to feel nurtured and respected. It is also the place of embodiment, of connecting with our physical self, with the concrete, tangible world around us. The north calls to you if you are seeking balance, the deep wisdom that lives in your bones, a place of rest and recovery. We have moved through these 4 directions, given them shape and meaning. East, air, breath, and inspiration. South, fire, transformation, and action. West, water, feeling, and reflection. And north, earth, balance, and wisdom. Now I invite you to turn toward the direction that calls to you today. You can stay in your seat if you'd like, you can stand, you can turn your head or your whole body or just turn your spirit, but orient yourself toward one of the 4 directions, the element that speaks to you and your life right now, as we enter into a few moments of quiet meditation. I invite you to slowly enter back into the space as you feel ready. And before the choir sings for us, let us light our chalice in the center of the wreath to represent the light our gathered community brings to this long night. We are Unitarian Universalist. We light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love.
Snowy Night by Mary Oliver. Last night, an owl in the blue dark tossed an indeterminate number of carefully shaped sounds into the world, in which a quarter of a mile away I happened to be standing. I couldn't tell which one it was, the barred or the great horned ship of the air. It was that distant. But anyway, aren't there moments that are better than knowing something and sweeter? Snow was falling so much like stars, filling the dark trees that one could easily imagine its reason for being was nothing more than prettiness. I suppose if this were someone else's story, they would have insisted on knowing whatever is knowable, would have hurried over the fields to name it, the owl, I mean. But it's mine, the poem of the night, and I just stood there, listening and holding out my hands to the soft glitter falling through the air. I love this world, but not for its answers, and I wish good luck to the owl, whatever its name, and I wish great welcome to the snow, whatever its severe and comfortless and beautiful meaning. Will you join in singing Dark of Winter? Our responsive reading is called Winter Solstice by Rebecca Parker. Perhaps for a moment, the typewriters will stop clicking, the wheels stop rolling, the computers desist from computing, and a hush will fall over the city. For an instant, in the stillness, the chiming of the celestial spheres will be heard as Earth hangs poised in the crystalline darkness and then gracefully tilts. Let there be a season when holiness is heard and the splendor of living is revealed. Stunned to stillness by beauty, we remember who we are and why we are here. There are inexplicable mysteries. We are not alone. In the universe, there moves a wild one whose gestures alter Earth's axis toward love. In the immense darkness, everything spins with joy. The cosmos enfolds us. We are caught in a web of stars, cradled in a swaying embrace, rocked by the holy night, babes of the universe. Let this be the time we wake to life, like spring wakes in the moment of winter solstice. I invite you to rise and let us sing, Find a Stillness.
I'm going to invite you now into a little moment of shared ritual. The ushers are going to be passing around baskets. We can just pass them kind of back and forth through the rows. And they have a very thin piece of paper, so just grab one, that will dissolve in water, and pencils. So I invite you to take one of those as they pass through while I explain what we're going to be doing together tonight. The winter solstice is a threshold time. The word solstice is derived from the Latin meaning the sun stands still. Tonight is a pause after the autumn's long journey into darkness, before our days begin to lengthen. Both the dark and the light bring their own lessons and gifts, and tonight we rest between them and take stock of our lives. What do we need to leave behind? What do we want to carry forward? Celtic poet and philosopher John O'Donohue has this to say about thresholds. Like spring secretly at work within the heart of winter, below the surface of our lives, huge changes are in fermentation. We never suspect a thing. Then, when the grip of some long-enduring winter mentality begins to loosen, we find ourselves vulnerable to a flourish of possibility, and we are suddenly negotiating the challenge of a threshold. At any time, you can ask yourself, at which threshold am I now standing? At this time in my life, what am I leaving? What am I about to enter? What is preventing me from crossing my next threshold? What gift would enable me to do it? A threshold is not a simple boundary. It is a frontier that divides two different territories, rhythms, and atmospheres. Indeed, it is a lovely testimony to the fullness and integrity of an experience or a stage of life that it intensifies towards the end into a real frontier that cannot be crossed without the heart being passionately engaged and woken up. At this threshold, a great complexity of emotions comes alive. Confusion, fear, excitement, sadness, hope. This is one of the reasons such vital crossings were always clothed in ritual. It is wise in your own life to be able to recognize and acknowledge the key thresholds, to take your time, to feel all the varieties of presence that accrue there, to listen inward with complete attention until you hear the inner voice calling you forward. The time has come to cross. To that end, I invite us into a threshold ritual this evening, one that I hope won't result in any burned fingertips or ash on the carpet, but that will still meaningfully invoke some of the elements we called to in our opening. Water representing feeling and reflection, and fire representing transformation and action. With the paper and pencil you've just received, I invite you to write a word or a brief phrase signifying what you hope to leave behind as we cross this threshold into a new season. When you are ready, you can form two lines in the center aisle. We've got 2 bowls of water, one on each side. And you can approach the altar table and drop your paper, which is dissolvable, into one of the bowls of water, surrounded by rings of candles. And if you'd like, you can raise your hand and one of us or one of the ushers can come and take the piece of paper for you if you're not able to come up to the altar yourself. And then after you've dropped your paper in the water, I invite you to take with you a solstice blessing in exchange. They're printed on the blue pieces of paper here at the front. Let the words of the blessing guide you through this threshold moment. Let the stillness of this long night carry you as you wait to see what is getting ready to bloom and blossom in you on the other side. I now invite you into this threshold ritual. You can come up to the altar when you're ready. In a few moments, we will light candles. We will join in singing Rise Up, O Flame. We will sing Alleluias and gather for cookies and cider and laughter around the bonfire in the courtyard. Like generations before us, we will welcome the coming light with joy and with merriment. We will do those things in a few moments, but not yet. Before we head out into a time of revelry, I invite us to settle in to the stillness of this longest night. Not out of some desire to add a ministerial seriousness to the event or to balance the excesses of the holiday season, not to force you into some kind of contemplative spiritual practice, and not even to make us focus on what is hard and hurting in the world right now as some kind of penance for our privilege. No, there may be a time for those things, but on this night, there is no solemnity to this stillness. There is magic. Can you feel it? Be still for a second. Don't meditate or pray, don't go inward, just pause and feel the energy of the space tonight. On the winter solstice, the sun seems to pause on its journey, to stand still as if to say, what comes next is undecided, so rest and dream and give new possibilities time to germinate. There is a reason that so many of our magical and fantastical stories take place at night. As a kid, I always loved Christmas Eve more than Christmas, lighting candles and looking out into the night sky, trying to see if I could see Santa's sleigh. There was so much more magic in that quiet waiting than in the sunlit chaos of opening presents Christmas morning. And as kids, the monsters that lived under our beds or in our closets seemed to only be a problem at night. Those moments in the dark, the unseen and the unknowing, seem to awaken our imaginations. As venerated poet and philosopher Bruce Springsteen put it, show a little faith, there is magic in the night. There are other kinds of liminal, less mythical spaces that also hold this kind of pregnant stillness and waiting possibility. If you walked our labyrinth before the service, or if you're planning to walk it after, you might make time to pause at the center. After winding your way there, and before winding your way back out, there is an opportunity to be still, to consider what you're leaving behind, and to receive what gifts you will take with you as you go. Or if the labyrinth doesn't speak to you, think about how you feel in that moment when you've received something important, like a college decision letter or an email you've been waiting for, that moment when you have it and you haven't opened it. And a friend of mine who worked as a hospital chaplain talks about how the feeling in the room right before someone gives birth is really similar to the feeling in the room right before death. Time seems to stand still, a threshold opens, possibility fills the space. I think these still moments, like the one we're in tonight, have something to do with hope. In her book, After the Good News, Progressive Faith Beyond Optimism, UU minister, the Reverend Nancy McDonald Ladd, writes, like faith, hope is the exact opposite of certainty. It does not presume an outcome for good or for ill. It lies in the waiting moment when the tug from both directions is not yet fully resolved, and when a great many things are still possible. It moves in the humble spaces that open when we allow ourselves to be uncertain and thus not fully self-contained. It is the possibility, though not the inevitability, of a better way. Tonight, we have let burdens and cares dissolve into the water on our altar, and we've received blessings to guide us as we prepare to cross the threshold, to make our way back out of darkness towards the action and transformation that light will bring. But right now, nothing is fully resolved. As we sit here together on this longest night, we are in a waiting moment where a great many things are still possible. Hope lies here, Nancy MacDonald Ladd tells us. So let's sit in it. Let's not rush out of it. Let's not run towards the light and certainty like the imagined someone else in Mary Oliver's poem, insisting on knowing whatever is knowable and hurrying over the fields to name it. Because we need radical hope right now, and the kind of imagination and humility it engenders. We are watching seemingly intractable wars on our TVs and seemingly intractable inequality and poverty in our own streets. And we are facing threats to the health of our planet and to the health of our democracy, for which I, at least, don't have any easy answers. We need to imagine new worlds into being, to create the possible out of the impossible. And our childhood stories remind us that the night is a very good time for that kind of thing. So leave here and celebrate the return of the light. But remember that solstice is as much about the pause as it is about the return. Let's light our candles, but vow not to forget the possibilities that live in these waiting moments, in the unknowing, in the stillness. It is in stillness that we rest, and when we rest, we dream, and it is through dreaming that we can know another world is possible. So let tonight be a night for dreaming, for lingering on the threshold and being open to the magic that happens there, for letting the stillness carry you into a new way of being. May it be so.
In just a moment, we will turn down the lights, and the chapel will be illuminated by our chalice flame. When you came in, you were given an electric candle that you will use to pass the light to the person next to you. And I invite all of us to share that light slowly and with intention. And as we share the light, take the time to look around, to watch the light spreading from the front row through the sanctuary. Each of us has our own small light. We will use it to illuminate this sacred space with each other. And for those of you who are at home, we invite you to turn down your own lights low and even to light a candle and to meditate on the flame. Once every candle is lit, we will sing together, "Rise up, O Flame."
let us take just a moment to behold this light we have kindled together here tonight. It is so good to be with each other at this threshold, to experience the magic in this winter stillness together. Soon I will open the circle and we will sing together in the depths of winter's darkness, followed by a postlude. I invite you to join us in the atrium and in the courtyard for tea, cider, and cookies, and to visit the labyrinth in the Buchanan reception room after we leave here. You can turn off your candles whenever you feel moved during the rest of the service, but I just ask that you give your candle to an usher on the way out, and there are baskets at both exits, so don't take them with you so we can use them again next year. As we prepare to leave the sacred space, let us open the circle and give thanks for the gifts that have come to us from all directions. Spirits of the East, of air and inspiration, we thank you for your blessing tonight, and we release you from this space. Spirits of the South, of fire and transformation, we thank you for your blessing tonight, and we release you from this space. Spirits of the West, of water and reflection, we thank you for your blessing tonight, and we release you from this space. And spirits of the North, of earth and wisdom, we thank you for your blessing tonight, and we release you from this space. Friends, may you embrace this moment of stillness, of imaginative possibilities and radical hope as we welcome the coming of the light. Go in peace and practice love. Let us join together in singing in the depths of winter's darkness.